The morning sun had barely begun to peek through the pines, casting long shadows across the ranch that my grandfather had built with his own 2 hands. The scent of dew on the grass and the distant moo of the cows were the symphony that had soundtracked my life for as long as I could remember. I settled my old farm hat on my head, the battered one with the frayed brim and faded color that had been with me through every chore, every sunrise and sunset on this piece of land. It was more than just a hat. It was a piece of my history, my family's history. I was in the barn, mending a fence that had given way during the last storm, when I heard the unmistakable sound of a luxury car crunching down the dirt road. I didn't need to look to know who it was. My sister, Sarah. She had left for the big city years ago, trading the dust and hard work of the countryside for the glitter and fast pace of urban life. Our visits were rare and, to be honest, always a little tense. Our lives had become separate worlds, and with each encounter, the distance between us seemed to grow. She stepped out of the car, immaculate in her designer dress and high heels, a stark contrast to my mud-caked boots and calloused hands. Her eyes swept over the farm with a mixture of disapproval and pity before settling on me. An ironic smile played on her lips as she watched me standing there in my old hat and work clothes. "Still wearing that rag, John?" She scoffed, her voice laced with a contempt I knew all too well. "I thought you'd have grown out of that country bumpkin phase by now." The comment stung like a slap in the face, but I forced myself to remain composed. Sarah always had a knack for finding the deepest wound and prodding it with precision. She never understood the value of sweat, of the land, of the legacy my grandfather had left us. To her it was all a symbol of backwardness, of a life she had gladly left behind without a second glance. I simply nodded, a lump forming in my throat, and went back to tightening the wire on the fence, the metallic twang echoing in the heavy silence that settled between us. That hat to her was a mark of my stagnation. To me, it was the crown of a king in his own kingdom. Sarah's visit was brief, filled with superficial questions about the farm's finances and thinly veiled suggestions that I should sell the land and move on with my life. Her words, though cutting, weren't entirely unexpected. Ever since our parents passed away, leaving the farm to me, she had made no secret of her belief that I was squandering an asset, clinging to a way of life that was becoming increasingly obsolete. What she didn't understand was that this land wasn't just an asset, it was the very foundation of who I was. It held the echoes of my childhood, the laughter of family gatherings, the sweat and toil of generations. Selling it would be like selling a piece of my soul. After she left, the silence of the farm felt heavier than usual. Her words had stirred up old doubts that I often tried to bury. Was I being foolish, stubbornly clinging to a dream that was no longer viable? The farm had seen better days. Years of fluctuating market prices and unpredictable weather had taken their toll. There were times when I lay awake at night, the weight of responsibility pressing down on me, wondering if I was capable of keeping it all afloat. My grandfather had managed, my father had managed, but the world was changing so rapidly. Could I? I wandered out into the fields, the tall grass brushing against my worn jeans. The sun was higher now, casting a warm glow over the land. I ran my hand over the rough bark of an ancient oak tree, a silent witness to the passage of time. This land had sustained our family through thick and thin. It had a resilience, a strength that I hoped I possessed as well. I thought of my grandfather's calloused hands, my father's unwavering determination. They hadn't given up, and neither would I. Sarah's disdain might sting, but it wouldn't break me. This farm was my home, my heritage, and I would fight to keep it alive. The challenges of running a farm are never truly faced alone. I relied heavily on the wisdom and support of my neighbors, a tight-knit community bound by the shared rhythms of the land. Old Mr. Henderson, whose farm bordered mine, had seen more seasons than I had years. He was a wealth of knowledge, always ready with a piece of advice or a helping hand. We often spent our evenings sitting on his porch, sipping iced tea and talking about everything from crop rotation to the latest local gossip. Then there was Maria, whose family had farmed this land for generations before mine. She had an intuitive understanding of the soil, a way of coaxing life from the earth that always amazed me. Whenever I faced a particularly tough problem, whether it was a stubborn piece of machinery or a blight affecting my crops, I knew I could count on her guidance. They, and others like them, were the backbone of this community, their lives intertwined with the land in the same profound way mine was. One sweltering afternoon, my old tractor finally gave up the ghost right in the middle of the harvest. Panic began to set in as I stared at the useless machine, the precious hours ticking away. Before I could even fully process the disaster, I saw Mr. Henderson's dusty pickup truck pulling up, followed by Maria on her own tractor. Without a word, they assessed the situation and set to work. Mr. Henderson, with his knack for all things mechanical, tinkered with the engine while Maria began harvesting the remaining field with her machine. By sunset, the work was done, and my broken tractor was being towed back to the barn. Their selfless act reminded me that I wasn't alone in this endeavor. We were all connected, our successes and struggles interwoven. Months passed, filled with the familiar rhythm of planting, tending, and harvesting. Despite the challenges, it had been a good year. The weather had cooperated, and the market prices had been favorable. I had worked harder than ever, driven by a renewed sense of purpose and the unwavering support of my community. Then came the unexpected news. I had been nominated for the Landowner of the Year award, a prestigious recognition given by the state governor for sustainable farming practices and community involvement. I was stunned. Me, the guy with the beat-up hat and the old farm, it felt surreal. Part of me was deeply honored, a validation of all the hard work and dedication I had poured into this land. But another part of me felt a pang of unease. The award ceremony would be a public event, attended by dignitaries and media. The thought of facing Sarah's scrutiny again, this time on a much larger stage, filled me with anxiety. What would she say? What would she think? Would she still see me as that country bumpkin, regardless of this recognition? Despite my reservations, I knew I had to go. This wasn't just about me, it was about the farm, about my family's legacy, about the community that had stood by me. It was an opportunity to show the world that there was value in this way of life, in the connection to the land, in the spirit of perseverance. As the day of the ceremony drew closer, I couldn't shake the feeling of Sarah's judgmental gaze, a silent question mark hanging over this unexpected honor. If you're enjoying John's story and want to see how the award ceremony unfolds and what Sarah's reaction will be, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The drive to the state capital felt like a journey to another planet. The familiar landscape of rolling hills and sprawling fields gave way to towering buildings and a relentless flow of traffic. The air hummed with a different kind of energy, a stark contrast to the peaceful quiet of the farm. I felt out of place in my best suit, the stiff collar and unfamiliar fabric, a constant reminder that I was a fish out of water. The venue for the award ceremony was opulent, filled with polished marble, glittering chandeliers, and the hushed whispers of important-looking people. I tried to blend into the background, feeling a wave of nervousness wash over me. Then I saw her. Sarah stood near the entrance, talking animatedly with a group of elegantly dressed individuals. Her eyes scanned the room, and when they landed on me, a flicker of surprise crossed her face, before being quickly masked by a more neutral expression. As I made my way towards the registration table, I couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in her demeanor. There was a hint of curiosity in her gaze, a flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. Maybe, just maybe, the news of the award had planted a seed of respect in her heart. I tried to focus on the task at hand, reminding myself why I was here. This wasn't about Sarah's opinion. It was about recognizing the importance of sustainable farming and the dedication of those who worked the land. Yet, the thought of her watching, her judgment hanging in the air, remained a persistent hum beneath the surface. The ceremony began with a series of speeches highlighting the importance of agriculture and environmental stewardship. I listened intently, feeling a sense of pride swelling within me as I heard my own name mentioned among the nominees. When the governor finally took the stage to announce the winner of the Landowner of the Year award, my heart pounded in my chest. And the recipient of this year's award, the governor announced, his voice booming through the hall, is Mr. John Miller. A wave of applause erupted as I made my way to the stage, my legs feeling slightly unsteady. The governor shook my hand warmly, a genuine smile on his face. As he presented me with the award, a beautifully crafted plaque, he spoke of my commitment to sustainable farming practices, my dedication to preserving the land for future generations, and my active involvement in the local community. His words were more meaningful than I could have imagined, a public acknowledgement of the values I held so dear. As I stepped off the stage, clutching the award, I saw Sarah approaching. Her usual air of detached superiority seemed to have softened. "John," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle, "that was impressive." There was a newfound respect in her eyes, a glimmer of understanding that I hadn't seen before. She even offered a small, almost hesitant smile. "I had no idea," she admitted, her gaze sweeping over the award in my hands. "I guess I never really understood what you do out there." Her words, though simple, carried a weight that resonated deeply within me. For the first time in a long time, it felt like the chasm between us was beginning to narrow. After the ceremony, Sarah suggested we have dinner together. It was an unexpected invitation, and I accepted with a mixture of curiosity and hope. We went to a quiet restaurant, a far cry from the bustling city eateries she usually frequented. As we ate, we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. I told her about the challenges and rewards of farming, the deep connection I felt to the land, the satisfaction of nurturing life from the soil. I shared stories about Mr. Henderson's wisdom and Maria's invaluable help. Sarah, in turn, spoke about her life in the city, the pressures of her career, the loneliness that sometimes crept in despite the crowds. She admitted that she had always viewed my life on the farm as simple, perhaps even a little provincial. But witnessing the award ceremony and hearing the governor's words had given her a new perspective. She began to understand that my life wasn't about clinging to the past, but about building a sustainable future, about preserving a legacy. There were still differences between us, different values and different dreams, but for the first time we were acknowledging those differences without judgment, finding common ground in our shared history and the bond of family. As the evening drew to a close, Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, John," she said, her eyes sincere. Truly proud. Her words were a balm to old wounds, a sign that perhaps, despite our different paths, our relationship could still blossom. If you're touched by the evolving relationship between John and Sarah, don't forget to subscribe to see what the future holds for them and the farm. The drive back to the farm felt different. The weight of Sarah's judgment had lifted, replaced by a sense of validation and a renewed sense of purpose. Holding the Landowner of the Year award on the passenger seat beside me, I felt a surge of energy and determination. This wasn't just an award, it was a symbol of the value of hard work, perseverance, and community. As I pulled into the familiar driveway, the silhouette of the old farmhouse against the twilight sky felt more welcoming than ever. The scent of damp earth and the chirping of crickets filled the air, a comforting symphony that I had almost forgotten to appreciate amidst the city's clamor. I took my old farm hat off the hook by the door and placed it on my head, the familiar weight, a comforting presence. It wasn't just a rag, as Sarah had once called it. It was a symbol of my identity, a reminder of where I came from and what I stood for. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of vigor. The award had given me a platform, an opportunity to advocate for sustainable farming practices and the importance of supporting local communities. I knew that the challenges would still be there, the unpredictable weather, the fluctuating markets. But now I felt an added layer of motivation, a responsibility to live up to the recognition I had received. I couldn't wait to share the news with Mr. Henderson and Maria, to celebrate this achievement together. It was their support, their wisdom, that had played such a crucial role in this journey. The genuine, unvarnished smiles on Mr. Henderson's and Maria's faces when I showed them the award were worth more than all the accolades and fancy dinners in the world. Their belief in me had been a quiet, steady flame, burning even when my own resolve flickered. They had seen the struggle, the long hours, the occasional setbacks, and still they had offered unwavering support, without judgment or expectation. That evening, as the last sliver of sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. We sat on Mr. Henderson's creaky porch. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the comforting sense of freshly turned earth and blooming honeysuckle. We shared stories and laughter under the vast, starlit sky, the kind of laughter that comes from deep, shared understanding. They recounted tales of my grandfather's early struggles and triumphs, of lean years and bountiful harvests, reminding me that I was part of a long and proud tradition, a lineage of resilience and dedication to the land. Maria, her eyes sparkling with new ideas and a quiet passion, leaned forward. She spoke with an almost poetic understanding of the soil and its secrets, sharing her insights on how we could further improve our sustainable farming practices. She talked about crop rotation techniques I hadn't considered, about natural pest control methods that honored the ecosystem, and about water conservation strategies that would prepare us for any future droughts. Her vision was not just about survival, but about flourishing, about becoming truly self-sustaining. Mr. Henderson, with his characteristic practicality and the wisdom of decades spent working the land, offered sound advice on managing the farm's finances, discussing prudent investments in new, more efficient equipment, and diversifying our crops to mitigate market risks. Their combined enthusiasm was infectious, a tangible wave that washed over me, filling me with optimism for the future. The award wasn't merely a recognition of past efforts. It felt like a catalyst for growth and innovation, a signal that the hard work was seen and valued, not just by me, but by the wider community. Inspired by their unwavering support and the public recognition I had received, I decided to become more actively involved in the local agricultural community. I started attending town meetings, speaking up about the challenges faced by small family farms, and advocating for policies that would support local producers and promote sustainable practices across the region. I found a new voice, emboldened by the belief that my experiences could genuinely make a difference. I even reached out to the agricultural department at a local college to explore the possibility of offering workshops right there on our farm. I envisioned sharing our knowledge, the practical skills passed down through generations combined with the new sustainable methods we were implementing, with the next generation of aspiring farmers. The old farm, once a quiet, isolated haven, a symbol of my stubbornness in Sarah's eyes, was now becoming a beacon of innovation and community engagement, a place where the past met the future. Life on the farm settled into a new rhythm, one filled with a profound purpose and a deeper sense of connection to something larger than just myself. The Landowner of the Year award, a gleaming testament to the journey, hung proudly on a wall in the farmhouse, a constant, tangible reminder of the triumphs and the unwavering support I had received. The days flowed with a comforting predictability, yet beneath it there was a newfound energy, a quiet excitement for what lay ahead. Then one afternoon, the familiar crunch of tires on the gravel driveway announced an unexpected arrival. It was Sarah. She stepped out of the car, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't in a stiff designer dress and teetering heels. Instead, she wore comfortable jeans and sturdy boots, a subtle but significant shift in her outward persona. In her hand, she held a neatly gift-wrapped box. "I brought you something," she said, a soft smile gracing her lips, devoid of any hint of the old irony. Inside the box was a new farm hat, sturdy and well-made, crafted from high-quality canvas, yet with that classic, timeless style that spoke of enduring purpose. "I thought it was time for an upgrade," she chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling with genuine warmth. It wasn't just a hat, it was an acknowledgement, a tangible olive branch. We spent the afternoon walking the fields together, the late afternoon sun casting long golden shadows across the land. Sarah, surprisingly engaged, asked questions about the different crops, their growth cycles, and the well-being of the livestock. Her curiosity was sincere, a far cry from her previous detached observations. At one point, she even tried her hand at mending a section of fence. Her initial awkwardness quickly gave way to a quiet sense of accomplishment as she wrestled with the wire and tools, a small bead of sweat forming on her brow. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky in fiery oranges and soft purples, She turned to me, her expression earnest and vulnerable. "John," she said, her voice barely a whisper against the gentle evening breeze, "I've been thinking, maybe I could come out here more often, help out, learn." A powerful wave of warmth washed over me, a feeling that settled deep in my chest. It wasn't just the offer of practical help, though that was welcome. It was the genuine desire to connect, to understand, to shed her preconceptions and be a part of this life that I cherished so deeply. It was a bridge being built brick by brick, across the chasm that had separated us for so long. "I'd like that very much, Sarah," I replied, a genuine smile spreading across my face, reflecting the immense relief and joy I felt. As we stood there, side by side, watching the last sliver of sunlight disappear over the fields, I knew that the old farm hat, the one that had witnessed a moment of scorn, had now become a profound symbol of reconciliation, understanding, and the enduring power of family and the land that bound us together. Thank you for joining John on his inspiring journey. If you've been touched by this story of family, perseverance, and the unexpected rewards of hard work, please subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming and relatable stories.